One play at a third time. So let's not focus on the great game. Let's focus on the great play. Let's play with passion. Let's play with love. Let's play with responsibility. Let's play with respect for one another.
How you feel? How you feel?
Morning. I don't want you to focus on, because if I ask you right now, do you want to have a great game? All y'all will say yes, right? I want you to focus on, I want to have a great play. I want to have a great play. Then the next play, I want to have.
We are back with HBCU football. And look, we weren't here last week. And look, and that's due in preparation of because we were preparing for the Bayou Classic, the World Fame. This is gonna be a long video. Me and Michael got a lot to talk about, but I'm gonna start on the good. I'm gonna start on some positives real quick. Performance with Glorilla went amazing. You see, that is like a fever dream. It's like a fever dream. I think for the band side of things, Classic went well. But now talk about the football side of things. Let me just play this video really quick.
I'm probably not gonna be making sense of what I'm about to say, but I think it makes sense to me. Regardless of their record, Southern is not the team to sleep on in the Bayou Classic.
Agreed.
It might not make sense because, like, well, they 1-10. Like, man,
hey, look, Michael, I like that you mentioned that because we say this all the time. One thing Southern know how to do, and I hate this to Graham fam, but Southern knows how to play against Grambling. Southern will fix everything up and go play Grambling and beat them. This is a neutral site. And you know this. Southern has the edge in that dome because of how close Baton Rouge is to New Orleans. Mm-hmm. You see 60% Southern alums and you see 40% Graham fam. That's just how it is. If Southern wanted to at least make their alumni proud and their students proud, you have to beat Graham. Do I want them to beat Graham? Michael, did anything that we said in that video, was it a lie? Was it a lie?
No, it was not.
And look, I'm gonna say this because look, I'm gonna wear this Graham fam stuff because look, I'm not gonna lie, Mickey Joseph and the Grambling team is probably finna hear the most criticism they've heard all season from me. But I want y'all to understand this, Graham fam. It is still love at the end of the day. But let's get started. Do I think that Southern did anything special to win the game? No, I really don't. I literally think Grambling, they lost themselves the game, and I just think they weren't playing with the effort and the intensity that they had been playing with all season. You know, leading up to all the games before Alcorn, that little 4-game win streak they had, they were showing the pride, the determination to win. Mm-hmm. They went into this Bayou Classic, and it was like, I'm not going to say they didn't give no energy, but I don't think they were taking Southern seriously how they should have taken them. Mm-hmm. And I say this because there was multiple times it just looked like Grambling wasn't giving all the effort out there. But I will say this. I give huge credit to Southern's defense because they did step up. They did contain Benway. They did, hold the rushing game. I'm not going – Benway did have his moments passing the ball on Southern's defense throughout the game. But one thing I will say is the rushing defense. Southern's rushing defense came to play and they held the rush. They contained the run, and that's what won them the game, causing a fumble on the last play of the game. But Michael, what are your thoughts on the game?
Honestly, first thing I'm gonna say is 2 words. I told you so. Well, it's actually 3 words. I told you so. I warned y'all. I warned you. I warned y'all. But sometimes you gotta learn the hard way. And I say that respectfully. Grambling had Southern 17-7 at halftime, dude.
Had to beat. Oh my God.
And I text you. What did I tell you, Deuce? What did I tell you 2 hours before the game started? I said this game could go one way. It can go Grambling's way or Southern's way. Those are your only 2 options.
And Michael, people kept calling us crazy because we kept saying that Southern knows how to beat Grambling. And they was like, oh no, Southern just prepared. No,
It's
I say this, Southern knows how to beat Grambling. It doesn't, and I said this, Michael, I wish I could pull up these clips. It doesn't matter the record. Southern beat Grambling at their worst, one of their worst records they've ever had in the Bayou Classic. That should say something. But I'm gonna say this: I take this loss and I look at Mickey Joseph now. Mickey Joseph, I gave you all this praise and credit, but the one thing I did say is you had to win the State Fair Classic, you had to win homecoming, and you had to win the Bayou Classic. You went 0 for 3. That's you went 1 and 3 last year, 0 for 3 this year. 1 and 3 last year, 0 for 3 this year.
Yeah.
I mean, this is how I see it. Mickey Joseph, you can have so many good seasons, but if you can't beat Southern, if you can't win a State Fair Classic, if you can't win a homecoming, I'm being honest, and even the alumni will probably agree. It's time for you to go. And I'm not trying to take away from what Mickey Joseph, I'm not gonna lie. You had a great season, but Bayou Classic makes up for a lot of that. And them losing the Bayou Classic just the way that they did, it really just makes me look at Mickey Joseph and I'm just like, he's just not it. He's just not it. And I'm not trying to put all the blame on Mickey Joseph, but throughout the game, the play calling was not it. The play calling wasn't it. And that's what I'm saying. This, like, you can point the finger to a bunch of parts of Grambling's offense, defense, coaching with the Bayou Classic, because a lot of the flaws were exposed. Passing game. I mean, that looked nice, but it could have been better. Rushing game, it could have been better. We'll talk about the rushing game in a bit.
I'm gonna say
defense was playing nice, but when the second half hit, they took their foot off the gas and allowed Southern to come back and win the game. Special teams, 2 missed field goals. I could really go on all day, but Mickey Joseph, I mean, I'm saying this as like a student. I want somebody that is going to win us these big games because, like, and I know we're not talking about the big PWI matchups, but look, if you're not familiar with Grambling and Southern HBCU term is basically just Michigan versus Ohio State.
Literally.
You really think Ohio State fan? Okay, I'm gonna say this: before Ohio State won the national championship, do you not think they were mad that they lost to Michigan 4 years in a row? That championship made up for it. Grambling has to beat Southern in 4 years. They haven't won they won one State Fair Classic in the span of 5 years. They haven't made it to the SWAC championship since what, Michael, 2019? It's been a while since they made it to the SWAC championship.
Well, I was talking about as far as the Bayou Classic, because that was the last time Grambling beat Southern was on, if I remember correctly, it was November 27, 2021.
Yeah, that's like 4 years. And I'm just saying, like, Grambling's team as a whole, the reason why we have these such high standards, win the State Fair Classic, win homecoming, win the Bayou Classic, make it to the championship. And that on the outside looking at that may seem like it's a hard task, but it's really not, because Grambling has done this for so long. Like, this should be the norm for Graham. And I'm still at a loss for words, because I don't know. Like, this season was going so good, and I don't want to take away from what the season that Grambling had, because it's your first winning season since 2019. But let me say this again: you couldn't even win the state. You couldn't win the State Fair Class. You couldn't win homecoming, and the one that I wanted you to win the most was the Bayou Classic, and you lost on the fumble on the last play of the game. Like,
it wasn't even that. It was the fact of the matter is that you go 14, you got outscored by 14-3 in the full quarter, just in that quarter in general. You cannot let that happen. You cannot let that happen. There is no excuse. And the reason why you can't get the words out, Deuce, I'm gonna tell you why. Because you're frustrated. I'm frustrated. You know how frustrated I was just to see that? You go up 17-7 at halftime. That's one 10-point margin. Then you go up 24-14 after the end of the third quarter. If I remember correctly, you had not one, but 2 10-point leads. And then in the fourth quarter, you only scored 3 points.
That's why in this missed goals, like, it's missed opportunities.
The momentum shifted because of the fact players took their foot off the pedal and Southern took advantage of it. As soon as the second half started, what did Southern do? They went right down that field and they scored just like that.
And the one thing, Michael, we said this.
Let that happen.
I know you remember we said this. Southern could care less, but all they want to do though is beat Grambling. That's all they want to do. You could have a horrible season, but as long as you see Southern fans, they beat Grambling, so they're fine. They're living high hopes. They don't care. You know, we'll talk about them signing Marshall Faulk later. But Southern is living high on life right now because they just beat Grambling. They just signed a Hall of Fame coach.
Mm-hmm.
This shouldn't have happened, and it shouldn't have even came down to the last possession.
That's what I'm saying.
It shouldn't have came down to that.
Grambling. Go ahead, dude.
I think if Grambling never lets their foot off the gas, they win this game. I'm telling you, you could tell if you were in the dome. I'm telling you this, you could tell the momentum start to shift like after halftime. When they scored before halftime, Michael, the band we were having our fun playing our little tunes, but after halftime, when Southern came out and scored, I'm not gonna lie, I sat down and I started watching the game because I told my friend, I said, look, he's like, is Grambling gonna win? I said they should win, but what Southern just did, and Southern got momentum this year. I'm saying so momentum. Once Southern scores, they have the momentum. And I seen Graham punt the ball, miss a couple field goals. I'm like, I just feel like I know where this is going, but it shouldn't have came down to that.
It shouldn't have.
And
opportunities to extend the lead, Deuce. And what do? You try to run the ball and you don't get nowhere. It's just poor offensive consistency, poor offensive play calling. You cannot take your foot off the pedal, whether you're your division rival or conference rival. It doesn't matter. The point is,
but Michael, you don't take your foot off the gas for Southern. Like Southern, I think Grambling hasn't realized this, bro. Right now, Southern is literally owning. Southern owns Grambling. Like, and you can Southern can talk as much trash talk as they want because they have won respectfully the last 4 years. They beat us on their worst year. You know, that is the part that upsets me the most because all week I seen Gram Fam, we got to get better at this. We kind of got a little bit of a hold of ourselves. You know, I seen people on Facebook, on social media, making the football team making TikToks. You know, like you got to be humble. And now you lost by 1 point to a 2-10 team. You're not like, no, like.
And then not only that, you lose to not one, but two interim head coaches because last season.
The same thing. It was the same thing.
Help me make it make sense. Because the coach that was fired from Southern, was he not Southern special teams coach? And then when the coach that was there, the special teams coach took over, and he was the interim coach. He beat Grambling. And then Frank McNair, he was the quarterback's coach. He came in, and he's the interim head coach. And he beat Grambling. Dude, we said this, and we said this towards the half end of the season. The fact that I'm all for that Grambling having their first winning season 2019. I'm all for that. I'm great. But what matters the most
couldn't win Bayou Classic
is that you couldn't finish your season off with a victory against your rival.
And I'm saying this: if they win this Bayou Classic, I promise you, I would have swept them losing against Prairie View. I would have swept them losing against Texas Southern under the rug because I said you finished out your season strong with all the predicaments. You know, you had that big scuffle. You had your starting quarterback T-Set go out. You had your backup. You're your fourth string quarterback. Grambling has been through. I'm not gonna lie. They've overcame what's been presented in front of them. They've been hit with the injury bug. They've been hit with hard times, and they've overcome that. But you get to the end of the season and you crash and burn.
Yes,
Southern, and I'm telling you, and I'm watching this over and over because Southern did not do anything to beat any Grambling. They didn't do anything special.
They didn't do
Grambling
anything.
beat themselves. They beat themselves. When has Grambling's defense ever let up that many rushing yards, that many passing yards? I mean, after halftime, I kind of seen as the quarters get on, like Southern started getting more comfortable, finding the holes throughout this defense.
Yep.
And man, I'm telling you, Southern's quarterback and their running Trey Holly and them, they were slicing up the defense.
Yep.
That shouldn't have happened. That shouldn't have happened. Grambling, I'm saying this for Gram Fam. I respectfully, I know we talked about it with Nate earlier. Like we said, we gave Mickey Joseph a B- A+. But Mickey Joseph, you're not it if you can't win the big games. Like, and you could. It's amazing that you took Grambling their first winning season.
Yes.
Can't win the big games. It doesn't matter because I'm telling you this: Graham fan cares more about beating Southern than they care about their whole season for real. And we couldn't do that. We couldn't win our homecoming. We couldn't win our State Fair Classic. We're 0-3 in big games. And I say that we did beat Jackson, but is that an annual game that we play every year? No. Well, we play Southern, we play Preview, we play a homecoming game every year, and that has not been our favor the last few years.
But how can you help me make this make sense, y'all? How can you beat Jackson State, but you cannot beat Southern? Help me make it make sense because it's starting to not make sense to me. And dudes, what did you just tell me? Did Mickey Joseph went what? He went 1-2. He went 1-2 the year before this year, and then he went 0. Right? So if you add all that up, that's what? That's 1-5, dudes. He went 1-2 in 2024, and then this year he went 0-3. So that's 1-5. So at this point, Mickey Joseph's job is really starting to hang in the balance, unless Dr. Travion Scott, the athletic director at Grambling State University, and Grambling's legendary baseball coach, Robert Ellis, if those two, because they got a connection. So the only way that Mickey Joseph is going to be able to stay another year is that if Dr. Travion Scott can see that there is no improvement, regardless of how this season went. Yes, you had the first win this season 2019. I give you that. But it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And yet again, I said this, I posted on Facebook. Yet again, Grambling choked another Bayou Classic. Yet again, it's unacceptable. There's no excuse. You had opportunities after opportunities to extend the game, but what did you do? You kept Southern in it. You gave Southern the momentum, and they never looked back. And you didn't know how to match it.
If I'm Graham, I'm sorry, but if I'm Graham, and if I'm the athletic director, I'm looking at Mickey Joseph's coaching resume, and I'm just like, okay, you had a bad season your first year, you turned the season around your second year, but did you win any big games? And I'm saying this, like, if you look at it's nothing. This happens in Power 4 conferences. You really think that if I'm gonna say Ryan Day, for example, without the championship that he has, you really think if he has a bad season at Ohio State and then he loses, say, 2-3 years in a row to Southern, and that's a few more years in Mickey Joseph's coaching resume right now, but he uses the Southern. The committee's going to the director's going to take into consideration that you're not beating our rival. I'm telling you, this Graham fam is more hurt that we lost to Southern. And I really think they don't care that we had a winning season right now. They really don't. And a lot of Graham fam, I'm saying this, they want Mickey Joseph gone.
At this point, it needs to be done. But like I said,
I'm going to say this real quick because before I forget, we did, when Nate was on the show, we did give Mickey Joseph his props. You know, he recruits well. He does have good connection with the players. He does have good chemistry. He does, but what does that mean if you're not winning these important games? What does that mean? You know, we want to see some championships. We want to see some State Fair Classic championship. We want to see a Bayou Classic win. There is legitimately seniors at my school that have not seen Grambling win the Bayou Classic, and that is sad.
Dude, let me tell you something. I don't care what kind of connection you have with the players. I can give a darn how many connections you have with big schools getting transfers. The point is, you cannot finish your season off on the right track. I don't care that's how many transfers you bring in, how many recruits you bring in, or the connection that you have. It doesn't matter. The point is, you cannot finish your season on the right track. Evidently you cannot keep the game in your hands. Dudes, I literally wrote this down as I watched the highlights, bro. Overall, this team, yet again, has the inability to close. Grambling failed to execute in critical fourth quarter moments, losing a game they were favored to win and led for most of the duration.
Look, I'm gonna say this: the penalties. You got 7 penalties that equated up to 90 yards. You went 5 for 18 on third down. Like when I say you shot yourselves in the foot, you really let Southern outscore you 14-3 in the fourth quarter. That's what's bothering you. And Grambling, and I'm gonna say this too. You didn't miss those 2 field goals. This would probably be a different story. I'm not gonna put all the blame on the kicker, but that played a part too. Like Grambling lost themselves this game themselves. Southern just exposed Grambling's weaknesses that was being presented in front of them, and they went with that. They seen the running game. Grambling's run defense was not the best.
I'm telling you this right now. Even if Grambling would have made those field goals, it wouldn't have made a difference. Look, dudes, my dad always told me that field goals are not going to help you win a ball game. If your offense cannot score, I don't care if it's 1 quarter, 2 quarters, or throughout the entire game. If your offense on your football team cannot get down that end zone and score and only kick field goals, you're not going to win. I don't care if it's 1 or 2. Field goals are not going to help you win football games, dudes. It's not going to happen. It's just that's the law of football. That's the history of football. It's not going to happen. And like I said, in that fourth quarter, dudes, Grant only kicked 1 field goal and Southern score how many? Not 1, but 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, and it says Southern relied on big plays late to complete its comeback. A 51-yard touchdown run in the third quarter and a pair of fourth quarter scoring touchdown drives, including a 34-yard touchdown pass with 7 minutes and 16 seconds left. And then the Jaguars finished with 204 rushing yards using explosive games to overcome Grambling's advantage in time possession and field position.
That can't happen.
You like big plays is one thing that you cannot have. Grambling had that was like 4 big plays that that just broke off fat runs for for Southern. You can't have that happen.
And you let the wrong runner back. Let me give you some history on Barry Remio.
And Trey Hawley, both of them are, just because they had a down season this year, both of them are amazing. We forget Trey Hawley is a whole LSU transfer.
Literally. And Trey Hawley is too. He literally transferred to Southern late this offseason, and I specifically said that Barry Romeo is going to be a problem in that run game for Southern. Even if Southern can't pass the ball, he's going to be a problem. And Deuce, he was a problem for Grambling. He rushed for over 100 yards on just 7 carries. I'm going to say it one more time. He rushed for over 100 yards on just 7 carries, including a 51-yard touchdown. Trey Hawley scored 2 rushing touchdowns and had 61 rushing yards. Okay? Matter of fact, I'll take that back. Trey Hawley was the LSU transfer. He was a running back. And then Gibbons made the game-sealing defensive play with a fumble recovery in the final minute. Deuce, I really wish we can show that fumble because I have a hard time understanding.
I was made for this shit.
Look, I know the quality is bad, but look.
You have the ball at the 35-yard line with just 40 seconds left, and you got the first down.
You know what's crazy? Michael, let me tell you what is crazy about that play. Before that play, Grambling converted like a 4th and 15. They converted a 4th and 15. They had first converted it, and then they got called back because of a holding. Then Grambling goes down the field. And I'm going to say this because Ben Wade, he played an amazing game. I don't know if you know, but he won the MVP. But he played an amazing game. He actually outperformed Cameron McCoy. He went 6 for 32, 221 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, compared to Cameron McCoy for 6 for 18, 148 yards, and 1 touchdown. So Ben Wade actually outperformed him. But let me get back to this play. He completes the pass. The next play, you give the ball to Andre Cruz and you fumble the ball. And I'm going to say this because a lot of people in the band were like, oh, you should have just kicked the field goal. But look, I'm going to say this. I understand this. Grambling had to run out the clock. You had to run the ball to run out the clock. But with the game on the line, how do you fumble the ball? You should be holding the ball with, I don't care if it's 2 hands. The game on the line, why is the ball not secured? And I'm saying this, Michael, have you ever seen the life sucked out of a stadium in a snap? That is what happened. And I remember I texted the group chat. In the second he fumbled the ball. And we looked on the jumbo screen and we seen the replay.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I think we were all just speechless. We're like, how?
Dudes.
And I get that you have to run the ball, but with the game on the line, you
No,
should
you
be
didn't.
on that ball with everything you got. It shouldn't be that easy to punch out.
You did not have, you had 40 seconds. You at the 35-yard line. Deuce, I literally say this all the time. In order for your kicker to make a cheap shot field goal, you have to get in good field position. Grambling had time to run at least 2 more plays, at least 2 more passing plays. You had to find ways to get down the field. And don't even get wrong. And if they ran that play well without fumbling, he wasn't gonna get many yards. Because if you look at the highlight again, where was the hole at?
But even if he didn't get yards, look, if that fumble doesn't happen, at least you give Grambling one more shot to hit a field goal to win that game. That fumble is what sucked the life out of Grambling in a snap.
You had 40 seconds at the 35-yard line. I would have ran 2 more passing plays. You got 40 seconds. It's not like you all the way past behind midfield and you got 40 seconds left. Then I can see you, trying to, rush. I understand you trying to run the ball around the clock. I'm all for that. But at the same time, you're at the 35-yard line. You still got a good manageable time, and you got a first down. Dudes, I wouldn't even waste my time trying to run the ball right now. I'll run the ball when I'm at least at the 20 or 15-yard line. And if I don't get nowhere, hey, it is what it is. And then spike the ball and then, hey, kick the field goal. There you go.
Look, I'm gonna say this.
Saying this.
I don't even care. Look, I don't care. Look, I say this. Andre Cruz, look, I get that you're a freshman. You gotta pick your head up and keep moving forward. But at the same time, I could really care less if you're a freshman, because if you're put on the field, you should be giving 110%. You should, you can't. We're in college ball now. We can't really make excuses, for inexcusable plays that shouldn't happen. So yes, we're coming off in a way, and if you're watching this, yes, we're coming off in a way of it may sound harsh, but look, I'm gonna say this. Look, at the end of the day, it's still Graham fam. We support you, but you gotta understand, like, stuff enough. Like this. Yeah, enough is enough, and stuff shit like that shouldn't happen. Andre Cruz, I'm not gonna lie, you made one of the dumbest fumbles that I've ever seen in college ball. I have witnessed, like, I feel like if Southern didn't fully have a chance to win the game, but that fumble by Andre Cruz just said, "Here's the full keys," and it's not gonna sit right with me. Like I'm if I'm being honest, I was telling people on the bus, like when we were marching back, and when we were on the bus, I was telling people this. It's gonna take a while for me to really like process his loss, because if you would see me in that dome, like my family is trying to take pictures of me. Yeah. I couldn't smile in those pictures because I'm just like, I'm still like, what just happened?
That's what I'm saying.
And the part that just made it worse, like, I promise you, I support all HBCUs. I do, but I think the Grambling Southern rivalry hatred just runs deep. And I want the best for Southern, but goddamn, sorry, my language.
No.
I cannot stand Southern fans, because there should be no reason why we're trying to march out. Why are y'all crowding our buses so we can't get out? We're trying to go home and we're getting flicked off left and right. Like, I just can't stand Southern fans, like the cockiness. I hate it. Look, I say Graham fam, they have this. Don't get me wrong, Grambling, they have it bad too. But Southern, oh my gosh, it is just different. I cannot stand the level of cockiness. It's just like they're just annoying down to the bone. And look, if you see me with the band and you heard me probably say some messed up stuff, look, in the moment I was not sorry, because look, I'm not gonna lie, my emotions got the best of me after the game, because I don't know. Look, I probably said something to Southern fans that I just don't remember. That's how irritated I was. I'm gonna say this. Southern, we're gonna talk about Marshall Faulk in a sec. But look, at the end of the day, I'm always gonna support Grambling over Southern. Look, when it boils down to it, I cannot stand Southern fans. I just can't. Like, you couldn't pay me a dime to like them. And look, congratulations on your Bayou Classic win. I get that. Congratulations on your Bayou Classic win. But I just hope, like, I really want Southern fans to know, bro, Grambling gave them the win. They didn't do nothing special out of the blue. I really just you like Grambling just gave them the win.
Yeah, they gave them. First of all, Grambling gave Southern easy looks, and I don't care what no Southern fan got to say. And first of all, Deuce, let me tell you this, man. Don't you hold back no kind of frustration. I will say it. I'll say it for you. How in the hell do you let that shoe happen? I don't care. This is a podcast, and Lord forgive me, but Lord knows I'm human. He knows my heart. He knows my heart. I'm not finna see him hold back no cussing on him. I'm frustrated with Grambling. I'm frustrated with Mickey Joseph because how in the hell do you let that shoe happen? How you let that shit happen? Lord, excuse my French, y'all. I'm sorry, but I'm not finna sit here and hold back nothing because I'm frustrated as hell. I'm frustrated with Mickey Joseph. I'm frustrated with the football team in general because regardless of you finishing 7-4, well, 7-5 now, it really should be 8-4. But like Deuce just said, you took your foot off the pedal and you gave Southern easy looks when you really shouldn't have. At this point, the defensive coordinator, Mickey Joseph, something needs to be done because I'm sick and tired of the BS. I'm sick and tired of it. Enough is enough. Even though, yes, you gave Grambling 2019 first winning season. I give you the benefit of the doubt on that. But what I will not give you the benefit of the doubt for is the fact that the matter is you had 24-14 going into the third quarter. At the end of the third quarter, excuse me. And then you only scored 3 points to Southern's 14. That is
Inexcusable. Look,
it does not happen. And let me say this right quick. As far as Southern fans, they want to cheer and do all this.
Let them enjoy their Super Bowl. Let them enjoy their Super Bowl. Cool.
It's all good. Because I'm going to tell you one thing. We're going to get to that Marshall Faulk stuff in a second, but I'm going to say this right here. Just because y'all hired Marshall Faulk don't mean anything to me. I'm happy that he's hired. I'm happy that a Hall of Famer is coming to HBCU. I'm all for that.
Because I know you, and we're going to talk about, because I know you were the main one saying Southern needed to bring in a Hall of Fame coach. You've been the main one saying that.
Yes, I said that. But one thing I also said is that just because a Hall of Famer is coming in
does not mean that it will.
The game, because, hey, you can teach the game, but you don't know how to, you can play the game, but you don't know how to teach the game. That's two different things right there. If I'm a Hall of Famer, you know what I'm saying, and I'm coming into an HBCU, Deuce, I can care less how great Marshall Faulk is. I'm happy for the hire. I am. But just because he's coming in, that does not change anything. Now, I'm not saying
I say this with Marshall Faulk before. Look, we just don't have too much of a sample size with him right now of like actual coaching resume. And let me say this before we actually get into Marshall Faulk. Look, Southern, I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna be the only. Look, Graham fan may not admit it. Look, y'all have upper edge on y'all own this right now. But I told Ben Way this. I said this. I texted him after the game. I said, as long as Grambling keeps you as their starting quarterback, and Michael, we're going to talk about when T-Set comes up. We're going to talk about that because T-Set's only a sophomore. So it's going to be a lot that plays into that. But I did tell Hayden, I said, look, if Grambling continues to keep you as a starter, because did he not outperform Southern's quarterback? He played a good game. Ben Wade played an amazing game. And I said this, Ben Wade, if you continue to start, if Grambling continues to start, they would not lose another Bayou Classic, which you had to start. And I full-heartedly believe that. I honestly believe that I'm glad that, I'm not glad, but look, it's a loss that Ben Wade can use as motivation, as fuel to the fire for the next 3 years. You know how the Bayou Classic gets now. You've experienced it as a starter, as a freshman, that a lot of players don't get to experience that as a freshman. Their starter Grambling normally rolls out juniors and seniors in the Bayou Classic. You're a freshman playing against, so you almost beat Southern.
Mm-hmm.
You know what to do coming into next season. You know the work that you got to put in. But I'm gonna say this also: Grambling football team, like, bro, the fact that I see some of y'all on Bourbon Street after y'all just lost to Southern, that just tells me y'all's mind isn't. And look, you can say, "Oh, we're gonna go out here to enjoy ourselves," bro. I don't care, bro. If you just lose this game, why are y'all on Bourbon Street? Why? No, it's like it just shows that y'all don't. Eddie Robinson wouldn't be proud. I'm just gonna say that.
Let me tell you this. Let me tell you this, bro. Regardless of you losing this game. These players, that just shows me. And I saw that too. They were all on Bourbon Street taking pictures, stuff like that. I have no problem with you doing that, but at the same time, you just lost to your rival to a comeback. The lead that you had for majority of the game, and you taking pictures like it's not a concern. And I only want to hear something, well, yeah, it's still a concern. Okay, if it's a concern, then why am I not seeing that? Evidently, it's not a concern. That just tells me right there, dudes, what that tell you? That these coaches, they ain't got no discipline over these players. They ain't got no discipline over these players. Because what kind of would I be if I let players go out and hang out on Bourbon Street? Don't get me wrong. I understand it's New Orleans. Some players ain't never been there. I understand that. But what I don't understand is that don't matter to me. You just lost Bayou Classic.
I'm gonna say this in the band sense. Last year after the Battle of the Bands, when Southern beat us pretty bad in the Battle of Bands last year. Did I go on Bourbon Street? No. I said, look, I'm just gonna, prepare and have me mentally focused for, the game tomorrow on Saturday.
Right.
If I'm a football player, and I'm not saying, look, hey, I get it that you're in New Orleans, that you're enjoying, the time out there. But I don't know. NFL players, they celebrate. It happens because due to like where they're at, right? Mm-hmm. But if I'm just the players, I kind of sit back and say, maybe do I really need to go on Bourbon Street after we just lost? But I do want to jump into the Southern hire with Marshall Faulk. Southern just recently inked a deal with Marshall Faulk, who is coming from Colorado. I'm gonna say this: I like that Dion is starting to branch out, his coaches to these, these HBCUs. Okay, look, I'm gonna say this. Do I think that Marshall Faulk is the coach that Southern needs? How do I word it? Yes, but no. Because Michael, you worded it perfectly. You can have a Hall of Fame coach that can come and put in the impacts, like we see with the impact, like we also see with former players with Michael Vick and with Deshaun Jackson that came and done to these MEAC schools. But it's just about how Southern is going to turn that and perform. But I'm gonna say this: Southern does have a good track record of performing well under good coaches. I'm gonna say this: the reason I can't judge Marshall Faulk so quickly, the signing, is because we just don't have enough sample size. He wasn't an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator over there at Colorado. He was a running backs coach. And I'm not trying to take away from his, coaching abilities, but I just haven't seen enough head coaching. I haven't seen enough of head coaching resume, in my opinion, to really say, okay, Marshall Faulk is going to, he's going to turn Southern's offense around. He's going to turn the whole Southern program around. But what I will say, do I think it's going to be an improvement from this season? Yes. If, these players return, Southern, look, low-key, I think Southern has a good team. But what lost on a lot of these games was coaching. Yeah. Because we forget, Southern came in with top transfers. They came in with the top quarterback. So, yeah, I think Marshall Faulk will help them. But, yeah, I really do think Marshall Faulk is – I'm not going to say he's the coaching hire they need, but I think that he is a coach that will help them get back to, the level of success that they were once on, like before this season. As much as I hate to say it, do I believe that Marshall Faulk can, with the weak SWAC West, can Marshall Faulk, if everything aligns right, can he get Southern back on track? Yes. Do I think he can get Southern back to the top of SWAC West? Yes. Because let's be real, nobody expected PV to be at the top of the SWAC West this year.
Right. And I'm going to say this before I get to Marshall Faulk and the future of Southern football program. Do I think – well, let me rephrase that. The question really remains, Deuce. Does Mickey Joseph deserve another chance as head coach?
No, it's no. I don't want him on the team. He's already
that's the main question here. And I know you're going to say no, but your opinion and the athletic director and Robert Ellis and the Grambling alumni and Mickey Joseph in general, that's really going to determine. And Deuce, I wouldn't even be surprised if Mickey Joseph stayed for another year. I would not be surprised. And I'm saying that. I'm finna call it like it is. Call me biased or call it. I'm not saying that he's deserving another season. I'm just saying that with Travian Scott and Mickey Joseph and the connection that they have, Deuce, I guarantee you right now that he's not gonna let Mickey Joseph go. Not this coming up season. I guarantee he won't. And if he do, hey, I'm all for it. But if I guarantee he won't. And I'll say this too. as far as Marshall Faulk goes, it's really going to determine how well he can build his coaching staff. Because you got to understand, Southern just finished the season off 2-10. So it's kind of like with, Michael Vick's situation. Norfolk, before he came, they finished off terribly. And then they come into this season, they didn't really do so well this first season. But it's kind of too early to say because he just got the job. But as far as Marshall Faulk goes, like you say, he doesn't have a head coaching resume. He doesn't really, have an offensive, coaching resume and nothing like that. He was a good running back. I give him that. He got history. But like I said, regardless of a Hall of Famer or not even a Hall of Famer, it's all about how you teach the game. But not compared to playing, because you can play a good game, you can play a good career, but then you can't teach a good team. Because like you said, Southern is a good team. So it's all going to come down to, can Marshall Faulk build the head coaching resume, build the coaching staff, and develop that into the Southern football team. That's going to be the question here. Do I think it's a great hire? Absolutely. I'm a fan of Marshall Faulk. He's a Hall of Fame running back. He was a bad running back for the Rams. But times are different now. So I admire Deion Sanders for bringing him to an HBCU. But like I said, and I said this earlier, a long time ago, that just because you're a Hall of Famer, that does not take away on how you coach this team. Because, yeah, you got experience, but you got to teach these guys. And it's a lot harder than you think.
And look, it says Faulk arrives in Baton Rouge with just one season of college coaching experience. I want you to take note of that. But with the resume that includes an NFL MVP award, a Super Bowl ring, and a bust in a Hall of Fame football pro, the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So let's get this straight. His performance on the field, look, we no doubt everybody knows who Marshall Faulk is. They know his greatness on the field. But can his teaching transfer over to the coaching level? And look, he's doing it on a smaller stage in the FCS, HBCU, like with the SWAC, right? So he has a little bit of advantage because it's on a smaller scale, so he can really start to get his name out, because you got to really think Southern is his first really head coaching opportunity. This is only his second year. He just spent one college coaching experience, and not to he did well with Deion Sanders at Colorado. Are we taking away from that? No. But right now we just need more of a sample size. And I think he's going to be in the same position in terms of how we view Delaware State and how we view Norfolk this year. Or he's going to be in the same boat. Like, do we think he needs to be going after one season despite a bad year? No. But it's just going to be, how does he rebuild this program to get them to once where they were?
Yeah, and I wrote this down, Deuce. The hiring of NFL legend Marshall Faulk as Southern University's head coach is a strategic move aimed to evaluating the university's national profile, boosting recruiting efforts, and here it is, attracting new sources of donor funding. It signals Southern's ambition to compete at a higher level and return to a position of dominance in the HBCU. Here are the key impacts for Southern University's future with Marshall Faulk head coach. Instant credibility and national attention. Faulk's pro and college football Hall of Fame status brings immediate visibility to Southern and the Southwestern Athletic Conference. This attracts media coverage, fan excitement that a less prominent hire could non-generate. Number 2, recruiting. Recruiting power and NFL connections. As a New Orleans native, Faulk has strong ties to Louisiana high schools, which can, here it is, help reestablish local recruiting pipelines. His extension, can bring NFL connections, are expected to help lure Power 5 transfers and develop players into professional prospects and asset the program previously lacked. So what you got to understand is that this is a great hire, and this is step in the right direction for Southern University football program. But like I said, the main question remains: can Marshall Faulk build the coaching staff, get the transfers, and get Southern program to where they used to be? Because let's be honest, if you look at the history in the Bayou Classic, you look at the history on Southern football team just in general, Southern was that team compared to Grambling. Okay, that's why the Bayou Classic series is what it is. It's close, even though Southern has won 4 straight. But before all this 4 straight started happening, it was kind of almost back and forth. Deuce, I know you can agree with me on that. I watched the Bayou Classic for a long time, and I'm gonna tell you this: the one thing that you gotta understand about the Bayou Classic, let me say this to the uneducated HBCU folk, the uneducated Bayou Classic folk, that the Bayou Classic is one of the most entertaining events in HBCU history. Okay? It's not just, it's one of, because I can name a few other classics. There are just, it might not be just as dominant as the Bayou Classic, but it's around that ballpark. Okay? Southern, if Grambling does not, first of all, if I'm Grambling, I'm looking at this, I was like, okay, they sending a nuke towards us by hiring Marshall Faulk. So the competition ought to be way more real this time. But at the same time, this is also good for Southern because Southern already done won 4 straight. Now I can't go too far on that. But what I can tell you, Deuce, is that it's up to Marshall Faulk on how he builds his dream team going into this offseason. Because you got to get the coaching staff, and you got to get the transfers, and you got to get the high school recruits too. So that's going to play a factor. But at the same time, can Marshall Faulk teach like he played? That's the, can you teach how you played?
I really think it all just boils down to, can you know,
hey, even if you have to show them highlights of how you played, fine. But you gotta teach the game. Kind of like how Deion did, but I'm not saying Marshall Faulk is no Deion Sanders. But what I'm saying is you have to teach the game from the roots of the ball all the way up to the laces. That's just bottom line. You gotta teach the roots of the ball on what it takes to, first of all, what it takes to win, what it takes to be disciplined, what it takes for leadership, and then as far as your coaching staff, what it takes to build a winning coaching staff. Because you could be a Hall of Fame coach and got a poor coaching staff. I'm gonna say it again. You could be a Hall of Fame coach and have a poor coaching staff. Bottom line, I'm just calling it like it is. You know that, Deuce. I know that. It's not hard to understand. But what I will say this. Do I think the future is bright for Southern? Absolutely. But as far as Grambling goes, where does Grambling football future stand? Does Mickey Joseph get another year? Or do you let him go? And in my opinion, because somebody said, because Deuce, you literally sent me a picture talking about we need to have emergency podcast. Well, here it is right here. Where does Mickey Joseph stand in the head coaching seat? That's the main person. And is Travion Scott willing enough, regardless of the connection that y'all have, are you willing to let him go? I understand. You had your first winning season. I'm all for it. But you didn't beat your rival, and now you're 0-4 in the Bayou Classic. These Southern players are over here writing on the chalkboard 4-0. Imagine the pain that you just brought on the Grambling community and the Grambling alumni. The Grambling band too, because dude, you literally just said that y'all was shocked. You had nothing, you couldn't say nothing.
Yeah, I didn't want, not gonna lie. After that happened, I didn't even want to go on Bourbon Street no more. It took a lot of convincing for my friends to get me out of my room, bro. I just wanted to stay in my room and go to sleep.
I don't blame you. And to be honest, dudes, me, you, and Nate, we were literally talking about, We had to close our group chat for a couple of days because I'm literally sitting here like I know good and darn well we did not just choke. Because I'm literally saying in my head as I'm watching this on my phone, I'm at work and I'm watching this on my phone. And I said, and some told me, I said, Grambling got two choices. They either control the second half like they did the first half, or let Southern have their way. And what did Grambling do, Deuce? They let Southern have their way, and Southern kept all gas, no brakes, and they kept going, especially that fumble. Just poor inability to close games yet again. It just seems like, and this probably ain't gonna make sense. But I need to ask this question because I need to be sure I'm not tripping. Why does it seem like Grambling like having close games? I mean, I'm trying to be sure, dudes, that I'm not tripping and my mind ain't losing its focus. Because if I remember correctly, what Alcorn game close, like touchdown or field goal related? I'm trying to be sure. I mean, maybe I need to do my research or something. Maybe I need to do my research. But if I remember correctly, last week, Grambling lost to Alcorn by either 2 scores or a touchdown. If I remember correctly, and I could be wrong. But it just seems like almost every single week, dude, the last 4 straight games, Grambling has had more closer games than larger deficits. And regardless of how the whole season went, you choked the Bayou Classic. That's not something that's going to go away. That's a hard pill to swallow. I literally texted my dad and I asked him, dudes, you want to know what my dad told me when I asked him, do Mickey Joe deserve another season? Guess what my dad said? And excuse my French, y'all, but my dad said, hell no. My dad told me, boy, you shouldn't even ask me that question. And to be honest with you, I don't think he does either. But like I said, it's really going to be up to Travion Scott and what he does. And I guarantee you, he's not going to let Mickey Joseph go. If I'm Travion Scott, I'm taking a real deep look at this. Because you got to understand, man, that Mickey Joseph didn't just lose homecoming. He lost the State Fair Classic and he lost Bayou Classic. That's not something to walk away from. And Eddie G. Rawson will be dead in his grave right now. Lord rest his soul. But Eddie G. Rawson literally built Grambling, and this is what you give? Doug Williams is still alive to this day. I guarantee you, if I were to ask Doug Williams right now, what do you take from all this? I guarantee you he wouldn't be pleased. None of the Grambling legends to this day would be pleased with what they saw after Saturday. None of them. It's unacceptable. You are literally proving yet again that Grambling ain't gone no further. They're literally right in the same position that they've been in for the last 4 straight seasons. You had the opportunity to beat Southern. Regardless of the record, you had the opportunity. You had Southern beat in halftime and at the end of the third quarter. But you let Southern score not 1 but 2 touchdowns. And I'm sorry, but the defense communication, dudes, it's got to get better. Because there were multiple highlights I've seen. I'm like, that's just too darn easy. Are you freaking kidding me right now? Look, let me make this specifically plain for the people that's watching us right now. Something needs to be done. It ain't got to be done today. But the offseason starts now. And some big decisions are going to need to be made because evidently Mickey Joseph is not it. And to be honest with you, to call it like it is, y'all know I like to call it like it is. He ain't. Defensive coordinator, he ain't. Grambling football season, to be honest, dude, to be honest with you, dudes, it ain't no different to me. Regardless of the winning season, it ain't
But
no different.
I really don't have no more say in this other than this. Mickey Joseph, I don't want you here. You had a good tenure. You had a mediocre tenure. That's what I'm gonna say. It wasn't the best. It was very mediocre. Because I basically got everything else out that I need to say for this video. Michael, I did tell you this. I'm so speechless about this game.
The first, it's gonna take a good couple of months for this. No, man, I take that back. It's gonna take all the way to probably next season get started. To be honest with you, because that's how long it's gonna take. Because I'm literally frustrated. I can go longer and longer with this, but due to time, I'm not gonna push it. I'm not gonna push it, dudes. But I will tell you this: a change needs to be made because Grambling future is not going well. The future is lost at this point. And I pray that A.G. Robinson is not overturning his grave because Lord rest A. Robinson's soul. A. Robinson would never let this happen. And he would never let it go. Because as great as a head coach as he was, he would have told the players. And if you don't know Eddie Robinson, you better do your research. Because Eddie Robinson taught those guys, Doug Williams, Roger Fobbs, Shaq Harris. You want to know why those guys became great? Because Eddie Robinson did not tolerate what just happened. He definitely did not tolerate lack of discipline. Because, dudes, that's another thing you got to understand with Mickey Joseph. The team was criticized for poor clock management and discipline in recent game against Southern, though Joseph maintained there were issues with players leaving the field late. First of all, why are your players leaving late? That shouldn't be happening. Your players shouldn't be taking pictures on Bourbon Street. Evidently, Mickey Joseph can't control these players. And I'm about sick and tired of it. Because if you can't control your players, then you can't control your season. I'm going to say it again because that sounds good, god darn good to me. If you can't control your players, you can't control your season. Type that in 3. And tell me if I'm wrong. But we got 57 minutes. We got almost 3 minutes left to an hour. If you can't control your players, and I know I done said it twice, but I'm going to say it loud enough for the people that can't hear me in the back. If you can't control your players, you cannot control your season. And you don't need to be head coach. Because a head coach is supposed to be teaching and not letting these players get their way. Because when you let players get their way, stuff like that at that Southern game happens. That's lack of discipline. And lack of discipline don't help you win games. Point blank. I can go ask my high school head coach right now because he's literally winning in the playoffs right now. And Coach Ball always taught us that if you are not disciplined enough to play this game, you don't need to be playing. Point blank, period. And evidently, Grambling don't have it. And evidently, Mickey Joseph can't control it. So it's time for a change. But dudes, I'm going to say this to you, and I'm going to say this to Grand Fam. Don't get your hopes up if he stays another year. But if he gets let go, I'm all for it. But don't get your hopes up. We're just going to see what happens. Because I believe his contract has expired at this point.
I agree. And look, you mentioned that we're reaching the time frame. Look, we're reaching that 1 hour mark, so we're going to have to close this out. But I'm going to say this. Look forward for the next week. You know, we do have a couple preview players coming on the podcast to talk about their matchup against Jackson State. It should be sometime this week. Texas Southern players as well. And also make sure you start looking forward to HBCU basketball because me and Michael will start covering that in about a week and a half. So make sure you're tuned into that. Nate, we're trying to get Nate back on the show in the coming days or coming weeks, so he will be back on soon. So
And dude, speaking of Nate, y'all stay tuned because we're gonna continue to ask Nate. But if I remember correctly, Nate specifically told me and Deuce that it's possible that at some point me and Deuce will be special guests on KGRM. I think it's 91.5 for Grambling Radio. Y'all stay tuned for that. I don't know. There's scheduling is still being discussed, but y'all
We're trying to work it out.
we're working it out, but y'all just stay tuned for that. And I will let y'all know something. Me and Deuce will let y'all know something.
Yeah, but look, make sure y'all keep liking, comment on all of our videos and stuff. You know, I think our last video hit 240. So our goal this one will be 300 views. We're at 258 subscribers. Let's try to get to 260 so we can start December off and get to 300 subscribers on the thingy. But I'm keep saying this. Stay tuned for this week because we're having content come out left and right from regular Inside the Locker Room with the whole crew who is slowly trying to fluctuate back into the weekly episodes. Me and Adam will be doing basketball talk this week with Malcolm and them from the Lakers room. Also look forward to me and Wednesday when we'll be doing another live stream Inside the Locker Room podcast with the full group. Looking to have a couple more guests on there. And then me and Michael, as I said before, we do have 2 more HBCU videos rolling out this week. And then in the coming weeks, we'll be starting HBCU basketball. I think I pretty much got everything. So make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe on everything, and stay tuned. And also, when this video drops in the morning, because I'm setting it to drop at 8:00. When this video drops, make sure y'all like. Y'all have to get it up. We're trying to reach a goal here. I think our highest was 1.3. We gotta get back up there. But thank y'all for watching. Comment who y'all have winning the SWAC championship, Jackson State or Prairie View. Comment y'all's thoughts about the game, and then as always, like we say, comment y'all's school and what HBCU y'all are representing. Also to note, and next year for season 2 of this, we will be covering the smaller D2 schools like Albany State, Tennessee, Kentucky State. We're going to be covering more HBCU. So this is only going to continue to expand and expand. But Michael, do you have any closing remarks before we close this out?
I have one closing remark. Y'all make sure, please make sure that y'all spread our HBCU segment, because like Dude said, we're trying to get as many views and many subscribers as possible. We're doing this we're not doing this to hurt. We're here to help. What we say and what we do, we're not doing this for popularity. We're not doing this for media attention. We're doing this because this is what we like to do. And we're doing this because we're trying to make a difference. Bringing these special guests on. I've told many HBCU players that your presence on this podcast and what we do is to help HBCUs and help players get as much attention as possible. Because Deuce, the post that you made, the post that we made on with Alcorn's defensive back, wide receiver, excuse me.
Yeah.
The post that we made, that post is already at, if I remember correctly, it's at 3.7K right now with a lot of likes. So y'all support and sharing makes a huge difference on the future and what we're trying to do. Because a lot of y'all been asking, and a lot of people have been spreading. So just keep continuing to spread, because we're trying to help the HBCU community as much as possible. And that's really all I got to say. That's my closing remarks. So please keep sharing.
And look, thank y'all for watching, and y'all heard it. Please keep sharing, and thank y'all for the support. It means a lot. Thank y'all for watching.